A woman was shot and killed just minutes after posting about the domestic violence she was facing. Family members say 34-year-old Mariah Samuels lost her life this weekend to that violence. John Lauritsen spoke with Samuels' loved ones.
Nothing bad I could ever say about her. I don't think nobody has bad things to say about her.
One day after she was shot and killed, those closest to Mariah Samuels created a memorial in her honor. She was a mother of 2 boys and a dog groomer who enjoyed spending time with family and friends.
She loves animals. She loved her son. She was sweet. She was outgoing. She was free-spirited. We loved each other. She's my everything.
Just before 8 o'clock Sunday morning, Minneapolis police found her shot here in North Minneapolis, just feet from her own front door. Samuel's family members believe her ex-boyfriend is responsible for her death. They say she had a restraining order out against him.
We both making police reports, calling the police for the last 2 weeks.
Less than an hour before she was killed, Samuels wrote on her Facebook page that her ex-boyfriend had threatened her family, damaged her car, and she posted a video that she says shows him hitting her several times.
She did everything right. She called 911 and begged for protection. She went to court and got a restraining order. She even posted evidence online, desperately pleading for help, warning the world about the man who was stalking her. Minutes later, he ambushed her outside her home and shot her 15 times. 15 bullets. 15 chances he had to stop. But he didn't. This is the story of Mariah Rosanna Samuels and David Eugene Wright, a brief romance that spiraled into a living nightmare of stalking, threats, and relentless abuse. What started as a relationship in early 2025 quickly became a deadly obsession that a system built to protect couldn't, or wouldn't, stop. David Eugene Wright was an ex-con, released after serving time, already on supervised release for illegal gun possession. He violated every order meant to protect Mariah. He broke the law repeatedly and authorities knew it. Yet he walked free. And when Mariah posted this on Facebook, a raw, desperate cry for help with video evidence of his violence, it cost her everything. On the morning of September 14, 2025, in North Minneapolis, Mariah made her final plea. She called 911. An officer showed up, looked around, and left. She turned to social media, posting a heartbreaking warning about the man terrorizing her, including footage that allegedly showed him hitting her. She typed out her fear, her frustration, and her reality. Law enforcement wasn't doing enough. Less than 10 minutes after that post went live, David Wright was waiting for her. As she stepped outside her home, heading toward her SUV, he opened fire. Witnesses heard at least 5 shots, then screams, then more gunfire. Mariah was found with one leg inside her vehicle, trying to escape until her very last breath. She was 34 years old, a mother of 2 young boys, a small business owner, a woman who did everything society tells abuse victims to do. And she still died on her front lawn. If this story shakes you the way it shook me, hit that subscribe button right now. Here on Whispers of the Criminal Mind, we don't just tell true crime stories for shock value. We dive deep into the failures, the cracks in our justice system, and the lives lost because someone, somewhere didn't do their job. We owe it to victims like Mariah to ask the hard questions and demand real answers. So what went so horribly wrong? How does a man on parole, with a history of violence and illegal weapons, stay free after violating a protection order? How does a 911 call get ignored? How does a woman's public plea for help turn into her final words? Today we're diving into who Mariah and David really were, the escalating terror she endured, the system failures that let him hunt her down, and why 200 people marched through the streets of Minneapolis 6 days after her death, chanting her name and demanding justice. This isn't just a story about domestic violence. It's a story about betrayal at every level, personal, legal, and societal. Let's get into it. First, let's be clear about something. Mariah Rosanna Samuels wasn't just another statistic, another name on a growing list of domestic violence victims. She was a 34-year-old mother of 2 beautiful boys, Elijah and Peace, living in North Minneapolis, Minnesota. She was real. She was loved. And she mattered. Mariah worked as a dog groomer and ran her own small business. Those who knew her described her as having a vibrant spirit that lit up every room she entered. She wasn't just surviving, she was building something. Creating a life for herself and her sons in a community that knew her, respected her, and genuinely cared about her well-being. Her family painted a picture of a woman who was truly one of a kind. Fiercely devoted to Elijah and Peace, Mariah poured everything into being the mother they deserved. She wasn't perfect, none of us are, but she showed up. Every single day. She balanced the exhausting demands of single motherhood with running a business, staying connected to her community, and trying to give her boys stability in an often unstable world. Friends and neighbors remember her warmth, her laugh, her determination. She was the type of person who would help a neighbor in need, who made time for her kids no matter how tired she was, who believed in building something better for the next generation. Mariah valued family time above almost everything else. She taught her boys about resilience, about working hard, about standing strong even when life got difficult. And life had been difficult. Being a single mom isn't easy. Running a business while raising two young children requires a level of strength most people never have to access. But Mariah did it. She hustled. She sacrificed. She kept moving forward because her boys were watching, and she wanted them to see what strength looked like. Her father, William Samuels, was a constant presence in her life and in the lives of his grandsons. The family was tight-knit, supportive, protective of one another. They weren't wealthy, but they were rich in the things that mattered: love, loyalty, and a deep commitment to taking care of each other. Mariah represented something powerful in her community. She was a black woman building her own path, refusing to be defined by circumstances, showing her sons that they could dream and work and achieve. She was an entrepreneur, a caregiver, a daughter, a friend. Drop a comment right now and let me know where you're watching from. Have you ever known someone as devoted as Mariah? Someone who gave everything to their kids, their community, their dreams? Let's honor her memory by remembering who she really was. Now, David Eugene Wright was 50 years old, but his past told a much darker story than his age alone would suggest. Wright had a criminal history. He was an ex-con who had served time and was currently on supervised release for illegal gun possession. Think about that for a second. This man was already being monitored by the justice system specifically because he'd broken the law with firearms. He wasn't supposed to have guns. He wasn't supposed to be a threat. The system was allegedly watching him. The age gap between David and Mariah was significant. 16 years separated them. He was 50. She was 34. And while age differences aren't inherently problematic, in relationships where control and power become central issues, that gap can matter. It can shift dynamics. It can create imbalances that abusers exploit. They met sometime in early 2025. By all accounts, it started as a brief romance. Nothing serious, nothing long-term. Just two adults attempting to connect. But red flags appeared almost immediately. Those close to Mariah noticed Wright's possessive behavior early on. He wanted to know where she was, who she was with, what she was doing. The relationship moved fast, too fast. He inserted himself into her life with an intensity that felt less like affection and more like ownership. Friends would later say they saw the warning signs. The way he checked her phone. The way he showed up unannounced. The way his mood could shift from charming to threatening in moments. Wright wasn't looking for a partner. He was looking for control. From the outside, it might have looked like a new relationship. Two adults trying to make a connection work, navigating the early stages of dating. Nothing too unusual on the surface. But behind closed doors, the abuse started fast and escalated faster. By August 2025, just months into whatever this relationship was, Wright had already pistol-whipped Mariah. He held a gun to her head and threatened to kill not just her, but her family. He damaged her car. He stalked her relentlessly, showing up at her home, her business, anywhere she tried to exist without him. Mariah reached her breaking point. She did exactly what we tell women to do in these situations. She filed police reports. She went to court. In late August, she was granted an order for protection, legally requiring Wright to stay away from her. But here's where the system started crumbling. And it would only get worse. Let's talk about August 2025. This is when things went from troubling to terrifying. David Wright didn't just argue with Mariah. He didn't just yell or slam doors. He pistol-whipped her. He took a gun, a weapon he wasn't even legally allowed to possess, and used it to beat her. Then he pressed that same gun to her head and made it crystal clear. He would kill her. Not just her but her family too. Her father. Her boys. Anyone she loved. He vandalized her car, damaging her property as another way to assert control, to remind her that nothing in her life was safe from him. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment incident. This was calculated terror designed to break her spirit and force her submission. Mariah's response was immediate and exactly right. She went straight to the police and filed reports documenting everything: the assault, the threats, the weapon, the destruction of her property. She didn't stay silent. She didn't make excuses for him. She didn't convince herself it would get better. She took her evidence to court. In late August 2025, a judge reviewed her case and granted an order for protection. This is a legal document that explicitly prohibits an abuser from contacting, approaching, or threatening the victim. It's supposed to be a shield, a barrier between danger and safety. Mariah did exactly what we tell women to do in abusive situations. She reported it. She sought legal protection. She used the system designed to keep her safe. She checked every box, followed every step, trusted that the law would actually protect her. And that's where everything should have changed. That order should have meant something. Wright should have been stopped right there. But he wasn't. Here's the part that should make your blood boil. David Wright violated that order for protection. Not once. Not twice. Repeatedly. He continued stalking Mariah. He showed up at her home. He harassed her. He made it clear that a piece of paper from a judge meant absolutely nothing to him. And remember, this man was already on supervised release for illegal gun possession. The justice system was supposed to be monitoring him. His freedom was conditional. He was supposed to be on a short leash. So what happened when he violated the protection order? What happened when he broke the conditions of his supervised release by committing new acts of violence and harassment? Nothing. System failure number 1. His parole was not revoked after the August assault. Despite threatening Mariah with a gun he wasn't supposed to have, despite the documented violence, despite the clear violation of his release terms, David Wright remained free. System failure number 2. Despite multiple violations of the order for protection, he was never arrested. No detention. No consequences. Just more freedom to terrorize the woman who had done everything right. Wright himself would later admit to police that he couldn't let her go. His obsession with Mariah overrode any concern for the law, for her safety, for basic human decency. And the system that was supposed to stop him simply looked the other way. Mariah's desperation grew. Family and friends documented her fear, her frustration, her disbelief that someone could violate court orders so openly and face zero accountability. She was trapped in a nightmare where the rules didn't apply to her abuser. Pause for a second. Really think about this. What would you do if a protection order meant nothing? If your abuser kept showing up, kept threatening you, and the police did nothing? If the courts gave you a piece of paper that was supposed to save your life, but it only made you a clearer target? Drop your thoughts below. Because this is the reality too many people face. Early September 2025 brought an intensification of Wright's harassment that everyone around Mariah could feel. The danger wasn't hypothetical anymore. It was pressing, urgent, suffocating. Mariah confided in her family. Her father, William Samuels, was acutely aware of the threat hanging over his daughter's life. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't overreaction. Wright was hunting her and everyone knew it. The question wasn't if something would happen. It was when. Mariah began documenting everything obsessively. She recorded videos. She saved messages. She collected evidence, building a case that she hoped would finally force someone in authority to take action. She wasn't just protecting herself anymore, she was creating a record, a trail that would prove what was happening to her if the worst occurred. Her social media posts from this period hint at her fear, though she tried to maintain strength publicly. She posted about stress, about challenges, about keeping faith. But those close to her could read between the lines. The woman who usually radiated vibrant energy was dimming under the weight of constant terror. The community whispered. Friends asked each other the question that had no good answer. Why isn't he locked up? Everyone could see what was happening. The stalking wasn't hidden. The violations weren't secret. Yet Wright walked free, day after day, his presence a constant threat that no one with power seemed willing to stop. Mariah's boys, Elijah and Peace, sensed something was wrong. Kids always do. The atmosphere in their home had changed. Their mother was scared even when she tried to hide it. Trauma was building in that household even before the final tragedy, the kind of stress that embeds itself in young minds and shapes how they see the world. Friends would later reveal the impossible balance Mariah was trying to maintain. She was terrified but trying to stay strong for her kids. She was exhausted but couldn't afford to show weakness. She was collecting evidence of abuse while simultaneously attempting to give her sons a normal childhood. The mental and emotional toll was crushing. At some point before September 14th, Mariah recorded a video that allegedly showed Wright hitting her. This wasn't just documentation for police, it was proof of ongoing violence. She was building an undeniable record of abuse, hoping that eventually someone would care enough to stop him. She posted hints of her situation online in the days leading up to the 14th, trying to raise awareness, trying to force accountability through public pressure since the legal system had abandoned her. The clock was ticking down, and still no one with the power to help actually did. It's 7:50 in the morning on a Sunday, September 14, 2025. The location is the 1400 block of Russell Avenue North in North Minneapolis, Minnesota. A residential neighborhood where families live, where kids play outside, where people are supposed to feel safe in their own homes. Mariah wakes up that morning already afraid. She knows David Wright is out there. She can feel it. Maybe she's seen his car. Maybe she's received messages. Maybe it's just the instinct that comes from months of being hunted, that bone-deep awareness that your predator is close. At 7:50 a.m., Mariah makes a desperate 911 call. She begs the dispatcher to send officers immediately. She tells them Wright is outside her home, threatening her. This isn't her first call about him. This isn't an overreaction. This is a woman who has an active order for protection against a man who has already proven he's willing to use violence. An officer responds to the call. Help arrives. This should be the moment where the system finally works, where someone with authority steps in and removes the threat before tragedy strikes. But here's the gut punch that changes everything. The officer left the scene shortly after arriving, reportedly without taking further action. Let that sink in. Mariah called 911. She reported an active threat from a man who had already assaulted her, who had violated a protection order multiple times, who was legally prohibited from being anywhere near her. An officer showed up, assessed the situation, and then left her there. Alone. Unprotected. System failure number 3. Inadequate 911 response. At approximately 7:54 a.m., just 4 minutes after her 911 call, Mariah turns to her last resort. If the police won't protect her, maybe public accountability will. She opens Facebook and begins typing what will become her final post. The post is heartfelt and desperate. She warns her friends and community about Wright's relentless stalking. She includes video evidence allegedly showing him hitting her. She lays out exactly what's been happening to her and makes her frustration painfully clear. Law enforcement isn't doing enough. The system has failed her at every turn and she's terrified. She put her life online that morning hoping someone, anyone, would see it and intervene. Hoping that public pressure might force authorities to finally take action. Hoping that by making her terror visible, she could create the protection the legal system refused to provide. Minutes pass. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. It's impossible to know exactly how long. Mariah grabs her keys. She needs to leave, to get out, to move. Her SUV is parked outside. It's a Sunday morning. Ordinary people are making coffee, reading the news, starting their day. Mariah is trying to survive hers. Her father, William Samuels, is inside the home. The same home where Mariah is raising Elijah in peace. The same home that should be a sanctuary but has become ground zero in Wright's campaign of terror. Mariah opens the front door and heads toward her vehicle. David Wright is waiting for her. He ambushes her right there, at the front door area as she approaches her SUV. There's no warning, no chance to run, no opportunity for escape. Witnesses in the neighborhood hear the first shots. At least 5 gunshots crack through the quiet Sunday morning air, sharp and unmistakable. Then screams. Mariah screams. Then more gunfire. 15 shots total. 15 times Wright pulled that trigger. 15 bullets he fired into a woman who had done nothing except try to free herself from his obsession. When first responders arrive, they find Mariah with one leg partly inside her vehicle. Even in her final moments, even as bullets tore through her body, she was trying to escape. Fighting to survive. Reaching for safety that would never come. She is pronounced dead at the scene. A neighbor living in an upstairs unit later recounts hearing the chaos, the unmistakable sound of gunshots, the screaming, the horror unfolding below. They looked out the window and saw the nightmare. Mariah's body on the street, her father's home now a crime scene, a woman's life ended in the most brutal way imaginable. 34 years old. Mother of 2. Small business owner. Community member. Gone. Wright flees the scene briefly, but he doesn't get far. Police arrest him shortly after the shooting. There's no mystery about who pulled the trigger. No question about guilt. He's caught, taken into custody, and the evidence is overwhelming. The crime scene sits in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Families who live on that block are traumatized. Children see the police tape, the officers, the bloodstains. The sense of safety in that community is shattered. Inside the home, Mariah's sons are there, either witnessing the immediate aftermath or nearby enough to know something terrible has happened to their mother. Elijah and Peace, whose entire world just collapsed in a span of minutes. William Samuels faces devastation no parent should endure. His daughter gunned down steps from his front door. His grandsons now without their mother. His family destroyed by a man the system refused to stop. Police confirmed the obvious. This is a murder involving illegal gun possession. Wright, the ex-con on supervised release for weapons charges, just used a gun he wasn't supposed to have to kill a woman protected by a court order he was supposed to obey. Every safeguard failed. Every system broke down. And Mariah paid the price. David Eugene Wright was formally charged with second-degree murder and illegal gun possession in Hennepin County District Court. The charges are straightforward. He killed Mariah Rosanna Samuels with a weapon he was legally prohibited from owning while violating an order for protection that explicitly forbade him from going near her. During police interrogation, Wright confessed to the killing. His reasoning? He admitted that he went to Mariah's home despite the protection order because, in his words, he couldn't let her go. Think about that confession. Despite a court order. Despite her pleas. Despite her terror. Despite everything she did to escape him, Wright's obsession justified violence in his mind. His inability to accept that she had the right to leave him, to live without him, to exist independently became her death sentence. As of October 2, 2025, Wright remains in custody at Hennepin County Jail awaiting trial. Prosecutors are building their case and emphasizing the premeditated nature of his actions. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of lost control. Wright intentionally violated the order for protection. He armed himself. He stalked her location. He lay in wait. And when she emerged from her home that Sunday morning, he executed a plan that ended with 15 bullets and a dead woman. Mariah left behind 2 sons, Elijah and Peace, who are now orphaned and deeply traumatized by what happened to their mother. These boys didn't just lose a parent. They lost her in the most violent, public, horrifying way imaginable. They were close enough to witness the immediate aftermath. That kind of trauma doesn't just fade. It embeds itself in a child's psyche and shapes everything that comes after. William Samuels, Mariah's father, launched a GoFundMe campaign in the days following her death. The funds are designated for funeral costs, therapy for the boys, and long-term financial stability as the family navigates life without Mariah. The campaign's stated goal is simple but heartbreaking: to keep Mariah's love alive in their lives. Community testimonials poured in from everyone who knew her. Over and over, people used the same phrases: she was one of a kind. A devoted mother. The kind of woman who showed up for everyone. The loss isn't just personal, it's communal. Mariah was woven into the fabric of her neighborhood, her friend circles, her business networks. Her death ripped a hole in all of it. The psychological toll on Elijah and Peace is immeasurable. They witnessed the aftermath of their mother's murder. They'll grow up knowing she died violently, knowing she was killed by someone who claimed to care about her, knowing the system failed to protect her despite her best efforts. Extended family has rallied around the boys, providing financial support, childcare, and the kind of emotional scaffolding that helps children survive unimaginable loss. But no amount of support can replace Mariah. Her legacy remains: a vibrant spirit, entrepreneurial drive, and deep commitment to community care. She built a business. She raised her sons with intention. She showed up for others. And she deserves to be remembered for all of that, not just for how she died. On September 20, 2025, just 6 days after Mariah's murder, nearly 200 mourners gathered for a march that would become a public outcry for justice and systemic reform. The route was deliberate and symbolic, starting at Mariah's home on Russell Avenue North and ending at the Minneapolis 4th Precinct Police Station. Marchers wanted authorities to see them, to hear them, to feel the weight of their collective grief and rage. Chants echoed through the streets: Mariah's life mattered, and protect and serve. The crowd was led by family members and domestic violence survivors who understood intimately what Mariah had endured and how the system had abandoned her. Jamie Dixon, a domestic violence survivor herself, spoke at the demonstration. Her words cut straight to the heart of the issue. This case is proof that something must change now. Not eventually. Not after more studies or committees or conversations. No. The criticism was direct and unambiguous. Marchers targeted the Minneapolis Police Department for its inadequate response to Mariah's 911 call and the broader justice system for its leniency toward repeat offenders like Wright. How does a man on supervised release violate a protection order multiple times and remain free? How does a 911 call about an active threat result in an officer leaving the scene without ensuring safety? As of now, The MPD has offered no public response regarding their handling of Mariah's case or any plans for policy reforms. The silence from officials stands in stark contrast to the community's vocal demands for accountability and change. This wasn't just a crime. It was a systemic failure at every level: legal, institutional, and societal. Mariah did everything right. She reported the abuse. She obtained an order for protection. She called 911 when Wright showed up threatening her. She even posted evidence publicly, desperately trying to create accountability when official channels failed her. Yet his parole wasn't revoked after the August assault. His violations of the protection order were ignored. Her 911 call was dismissed with an officer leaving the scene. Every safeguard designed to protect victims of domestic violence collapsed. Minnesota faces an ongoing intimate partner violence crisis, with deaths occurring weekly. Advocates are demanding better enforcement of protection orders, faster intervention on emergency calls, and real accountability for offenders on supervised release who reoffend. Mariah's final Facebook post went viral, accumulating thousands of views and sparking a national conversation about how we fail domestic violence victims even when they follow every rule we give them. So let me ask you this: how many more Mariahs have to die before protection orders actually protect? She called 911. She posted online. She did everything society tells abuse victims to do. And she still died on her front lawn while her babies were inside. Do you think the officer who left that scene should face consequences? What about the parole system that kept Wright free after violating his release? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you stand on this, because these aren't just theoretical questions. These are life and death decisions being made, or not made, every single day. If you or someone you know is in a similar situation, please reach out. Reach out to family, to domestic violence hotlines, to anyone who will listen. Don't suffer in silence. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. There are people who want to help, who will believe you, who will fight alongside you. And if you have a painful story that needs to be heard, DM us. You might be featured in an upcoming episode. Your voice matters. Your experience matters. And sometimes telling your story is the first step toward healing, or toward saving someone else. This is Whispers of the Criminal Mind, where we don't just tell true crime stories for entertainment. We dig into the why. We demand better from our systems, our institutions, and ourselves. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hit that bell for notifications, because we're not stopping until these stories force real change. Mariah's life mattered. Her boys, Elijah and Peace, deserve justice. And we owe it to her memory to keep asking the hard questions, to keep demanding accountability, and to keep saying her name. Rest in power, Mariah Rosanna Samuels. We won't let them forget you.